case is going to be about Madison Scott. So, Madison Scott was 20 years old when she went missing on May 28th of 2011 when she was on a camping trip at a Hawksback Lake in Vanderhoof, British Columbia. Maddie was described as full of life, smart, and witty. She loved photography and she loved the outdoors. She was very active. She loved dirt biking, swimming, horseback riding, and camping. She was very creative. She was constantly making videos, and she was also taking a visual art class. And everyone just loved her spontaneous and adventurous character. And she was also very close to her family, and so close even that after high school she got a job with her father in the logging industry. So on May 27th, she was supposed to hang out with a friend who was visiting town, but she changed her mind and decided to go to a party at Hawksback Lake. And it's an area that she's familiar with. Now, the party details were public. They were posted on Facebook with the time and the location. So Maddie and her best friend Jordy planned to attend the party together. They both knew that they would be drinking alcohol, so they decided to take a tent and camp out overnight. Now, once they began setting up the tent, they quickly discovered that the tent was too small and that they had actually forgotten the tent poles. So Maddie went back home, ran into her mother, and her mother said that everything seemed fine, that she was still really excited about this party, and that she just seemed very happy, and she picked up her tent poles and went back to the party. So her and Jordy set up the tent and then headed to the party. There were about 50 people at this party, and everyone was having a really good time. Now, according to her best friend Jordy, later on in the party, a bunch of people crashed the party. They were all in their mid-40s to 50s or so, she estimated. They were all a lot older than they were, and nobody seemed to know them. They just crashed the party and decided to join, but it seemed like nobody at the party knew who they were. And they were very rowdy. But this is Jordy's account of what happened that night, and you have to be aware that some of the pieces of information she gave contradict some of the pieces of information she had already given. So it's not clear, whether everything is really true. It's just her account of things. Now, in an interview, and I'm guessing that this was with police, she said that as the night went on, she got more and more drunk. And at a certain time, she fell into a log fire. And that's when she decided to leave the party. She, in the same interview, she said that she approached Maddie around 1 a.m., who was already in the tent planning to go to sleep. And she told Maddie that she couldn't stay because she was way too drunk. In another interview, she said that a fight broke out, and that fight caused her to fall into the fire. So a lot of the things she said are just slightly different. So it's not sure why Jordy actually left the party, but she decided not to stay behind with Maddie. Now, it is strange that she told Maddie that she was too drunk, and that's why she wanted to go home, because the whole reason that they decided to camp out is because they both knew that they would be drinking too much to drive, and that's why they decided to camp. And the fall into the fire is also strange because she didn't seek any medical attention, and she didn't seem very injured. So either it didn't happen, or it was one of those where she got unsteady and almost fell into a fire but didn't actually fall into it. She also said that when she left the party, there were about 5 people left. And when she went to tell Maddie, Maddie begged her not to go. But she told Maddie that she was just too drunk and she didn't want to stay. She offered Maddie a ride home, but Maddie refused because she had already set up the tent. All her belongings were there and she didn't want to leave her belongings behind. So by the time the party ended around 4 a.m., all the friends that were supposed to camp out with Maddie had left. So she was left all alone. There's a few things about this. So, one, the party ended at 4 a.m. and at 1 a.m., Jordy said there were only 5 people left. So those 5 people carried on their own for 3 hours. I find that a little bit strange. And then also, I'm sorry, but that's really bad friendship. Like leaving, there were multiple people that were supposed to camp out and they all left and just left Maddie there all alone in these woods in her tent. Like, you would think that at least someone would have stayed with her or like pushed her to go home with them so that she wouldn't be left alone. But no, they left her. So a few hours later, the time is mentioned differently in several sources, but on the website that her family created for her disappearance, it says 8:30, so I'm just going to take that. Around 8:30 a.m., a few people who had attended the party the night before, including Jordy, decided to go back to do some cleanup and check on Maddie. When they got there, Maddie's belongings were still in the exact same place. Her tent was still there. Her car was still in the parking lot. But there was no sign of Maddie. And when they looked inside the tent, they found that all her belongings were like scattered out. Like it looked like it had been like rumbled through. And some of her jewelry was found on the ground outside the tent. And Jordy said that Maddie never took that off. So after discovering this and not finding Maddie, Jordy decided to not tell Maddie's parents. She continued to do the cleanup and then went off to work. So in the meantime, Maddie's parents grew concerned because they hadn't heard from her. So they tried calling her and didn't get an answer. But they didn't immediately worry because Maddie was 20 years old and she loved the outdoors. She was very familiar with the area, so in their mind, it could be that she woke up in the morning and decided to just take a hike along the park and stay there for the day. But then on Sunday, the next day, when they still hadn't heard from Maddie, they called Jordy's mother, and she told them that Jordy had come home that Friday night and that, she had been home basically all weekend. So they knew then that something was off. They immediately headed out to the campsite, and again they found Maddie's belongings in the exact same place. They found her pickup truck in the parking lot, but Maddie's tent had collapsed. They found some of Maddie's friends there, but none of them had seen her. So at this point, they called the police. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police arrived immediately, but they didn't necessarily suspect foul play. They recommended the parents to call all of Maddie's friends to see if she hadn't gone home with anyone that night and decided against camping. And they did. They called all of her friends, but none of them had heard from her. So the police started questioning all the people at the party and started to see if they could establish a timeline of the night. And they focused on Jordy. They gave her 2 polygraph tests, which according to Jordy, she passed. But I couldn't find that anywhere. That's just something that she stated that happened. But I am guessing that since she's not considered a suspect by police, that she did pass. So they started searching then the whole area by air, land, and water. They brought in cadaver dogs, and they searched the same areas multiple times, but they didn't find anything. The terrain around the camping site was very rough, and it had a lot of dense woods that hadn't been touched in years. You guys know how I feel about dense woods. A lot of these cases where people go missing seem to be centered around dense woods, and they're just never found. But in this case, it's not like they did a search once or twice. They searched multiple areas 4 or 5 times, so they did a really thorough search of the area, and they didn't find her. Another party took place the day after the party that Maddie had attended, with around 150 people attending, and they all all said that her tent and belongings had been there all this time, but they never saw Maddie. And since then, there have been no developments in her case, and the police have never publicly named a suspect. So there's a theory about Highway 16, which is nicknamed the Highway of Tears. Now, the Highway of Tears is a section of highway located between Prince George and Prince Rupert in British Columbia, and the city that Maddie lived in is right along this highway. So Vanderhoof is the city that she lived in. Now, since 1969, at least 18 women have gone missing or have been murdered on this highway. Now, most of them were teenagers and from Aboriginal descent. But, there have been just non-Aboriginal women as well. I mean, there's been 18. And most people believe that there's a serial killer or multiple serial killers that work on this highway. There's actually a sign placed on this stretch of highway called the Highway of Tears that specifically says, "Young women, please don't go hiking here. There's a killer on the loose and it's not safe." The camping site was 71 miles away from this highway. Now, the party was posted on Facebook with date and time, so it could very well be that whoever is working this highway saw an opportunity to go there and grab someone. Another theory is that it was just a random stranger and a crime of opportunity, and that ties in with this, where they could have easily have seen the party posted on Facebook and been like, "We're gonna go check this out and see if we can find anyone." Another theory is that Maddie died accidentally after everyone had left the party, but her body hasn't been found. The theory here is that she might have woken up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom, and that she, being drunk and being tired, slipped and fell and died from her injuries, or maybe even fell into the lake. Now, these are dense woods, and we have had cases before where a body was found like 5 or 6 years later, even though the area was searched with dogs. So I'm not ruling that out, but the area that her tent was in was not necessarily dense woods. It was a pretty open space. She would have had to walk really far to come into an area of dense woods. And if you wake up in the middle of the night and you're drunk and you're in a forest, I don't think you're gonna bother walking that far to use the bathroom. I think you're just gonna go where you are. Also, her keys and her cell phone were never found. Now, if she went to the bathroom, she might have taken her phone with her to use her flashlight. But why would she take her car keys? Like, that makes no sense to me. Now, police stated that they believe foul play was involved, and they believe that she left by vehicle. Now, they never said why they believe this, but it is possible that they have access to Maddie's cell phone records and pings, and that they have evidence that she traveled a big distance in a short space of time. And that's how they know that she left by vehicle. But if that is the case, they've never publicly confirmed this. And then another theory is that something happened to her at the party, and the people who were there know what happened to her. Now, police have cleared everyone, and they said that they don't believe anyone was involved. But I question how they would have known everyone that was at the party, because as we know, a whole bunch of people crashed the party, people that nobody knew. So if nobody knew them, how would police know who they were? I don't think that they were able to question everyone at the party, because I don't think they knew who all was there. And then there's the friends who came back the next day and seemingly didn't know us anything. Like, I'm still not over the fact that they left her alone all night. And the fact that Jordy didn't notify her parents but just went off to work, I find that super sketchy too. Now, also, and here's another thing, she told Jordy specifically that night that she didn't want to go home because she didn't want to leave all her belongings behind. So the thought that she left in a vehicle I doubt it would have been voluntary. I don't think she would have offered someone's ride home and then something happened to her because she didn't want to leave her belongings. So I don't think that she would have just done that. So a lot of people question Jordy's actions, and I'm not saying she had something to do with it because she was cleared by the police, but I find it strange that she decided to go home. Like, this is all her account. We don't know if that's actually what happened that night and if she actually had that conversation with Maddie. But she said that she wanted to go home because she was too drunk, when the whole reason they were camping out was because they knew they were going to get drunk. And then she went back the next day and was like, oh, all her belongings were still there, but I just went to work. Like, that's so weird. Another theory is that Maddie realized that no one else was going to be staying there and that she didn't want to be all alone, so that she did decide to ask someone at the party for a ride home, and that something happened to her then. But again, she would have had to leave her belongings behind. It could be that she decided in the end to do it because she thought, better leave them behind and pick them up the next day than be out here all alone. But I find it hard to believe that she did that, because it basically means, as the party didn't end until 4 and she was already in her tent ready to go to sleep by 1, it would have been 3 hours before she would have made that decision, and I just find that strange. So that's all there is in this case. So let me know what you guys think. I don't want to question anyone. I just find a lot of the friends' behavior a little bit strange. I don't know how they could leave her behind. I would never leave my friend behind all alone in a tent like that. I just can't imagine ever doing that. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. And as always, thank you for watching,